Fear doesn't protect your future, it slows down your development. What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Love All Life podcast hosted by yours truly, G Man. And in today's episode, we're going to be tackling fear, UTR, parents, coaching, all the things that I have experienced as a former junior player, as a former Division I collegiate player, and as an ITF circuit pro. Let's get into it. So, with that being said, I want to take you guys back to a story. Back in 2003, 2004, my dad signed me up for this prestigious tournament called the Little Mo. And if you're unfamiliar with the Little Mo, this is a big tournament that is always hosted in the state of Florida, and it is also an international tournament. So my dad signed me up for this tournament, and again, I was around 9 years old, and at the time, still learning how to problem solve, still learning how to play the game. And I entered this tournament, not with high expectations, because at the end of the day, I was not supposed to win this. I wasn't one of the best players, but I did put a lot of pressure on myself. And with that came a lot of anxiety, came a lot of fear. So my dad signed me up for this tournament. I'm playing one of the top seeds. His name is Joshua Goodman. And we're still friends to this day. And he could probably recall this match. And I certainly remember it to this day because it was one of the days where I felt so ashamed. I felt so miserable. So I'm going into this match. I'm a nervous wreck. Both of my parents are watching. I know I'm playing the top seed. Josh's father's there as well. So I'm thinking, hey, if I could just at least make a good showing, I could come home with some pride. That did not happen. So in the beginning of that match, I lose, let's say, the first 3 games very fast. Had some chances to make it close to some degree. But again, Josh was a much better player than I was during that time. And I'm playing this match, and all of a sudden, I'm now down 4-0, 5-0, and I start crying. I start bawling. And my dad, you probably recall this too. He's at the event telling me, hey, stop crying, stop doing this, get it together. And I just couldn't stop crying because I was in a mental state where I felt like I put so much pressure on myself, and the anxiety built up and the fear built up. And because of that, I ultimately lost that match 6-0, 6-0. One of the most embarrassing moments of my junior career. And again, I wasn't that great. But because I put so much pressure on myself, because I had all this anxiety and all this built up pressure, thinking that I had to do well and that I had to prove something to my parents and I had to do well in this tournament, because of all these things that I put unreasonably on myself, I lost that match horribly. And I look back and it's kind of funny because I knew that I was kind of starting the game. I was trying to really establish myself. But because I put all these unnecessary expectations on myself, I ended up playing with fear. And this is what I want juniors and collegiate players to really understand. When you play with fear, it just paralyzes you. You don't have the right to put unnecessary pressure on yourself, especially when you're just starting to learn how to play the game. And you have to realize the fact that you're always in a developmental stage. And if you come to the conclusion that no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter where you go in this game, you still have to develop, you still have to get better. And because of that, you have to understand that when fear is about to attack you, you have to have a foundation to meet that. What is that foundation? Well, that foundation has to revolve around having a growth mindset. What does it mean to have a growth mindset? To have a growth mindset means this: I'm going to be focusing on development. I'm going to be focusing on things that are going to help me improve ultimately. I'm not going to put my mind in a fixed mindset. And what I mean by a fixed mindset is when you're focusing on results, you're focusing on winning, you're focusing on winning this tournament or getting this certain ranking or trying to impress somebody else rather than thinking, hey, I'm playing a game for the long run. I'm trying to get better so that the journey that I'm on now, it's not going to be toxic. It's not going to be a journey where I feel dissatisfied, all because I'm worried about results and I'm afraid of losing. That's really what it all comes down to, right? If you're so afraid of losing, you're never going to have the best result, even if you win. Just think about that for a moment. So you could win a match and still play afraid. It's crazy, right? So with that being said, you got to understand the fact that, yes, you're never really going to get rid of fear, but you'll always know it's there. And the temptation to play afraid, you have to really hit that in the nail with understanding, okay, how do I want to grow today? That can even start in practice, right? What are the goals that I really want to accomplish? Rather than saying to myself, okay, I have to win this tournament and I have to get these results and I have to impress my parents. If you're in that mindset consistently, it's going to be very hard to perform, very hard to perform at your best. So with that being said, stop bowing down to your fear. You don't have to bow down to it. You can understand that in a match, yep, there's temptations to not do the right thing, but you have to understand that there's another foundation that you can rely on, and that's the growth mindset that tells you, hey, you know what? I can operate in a mindset of belief that tells me, hey, I don't have to bow down to this fear. I can grow in this area. I could still lose and do things the right way. So stop bowing down to fear and stop worrying about results. Now let's get into UTR. UTR did not exist when I was playing. The things that I focused on primarily were the tournament schedule that I was playing, rankings. I did indeed search them a lot. I knew who the best players were, but again, it wasn't really a part of my identity. And I understood the big tournaments that were around me, especially in the state of Florida. I had the luxury of not having to travel a lot. So with that, my dad made my schedule based on the local proximity of where the tournaments were. So it was pretty, I'd say, easy path for us in terms of just having tournaments around us. And most players around the nation of America can't really say that. Again, so thankful and blessed to be in the state of Florida because there was a tournament every weekend. But going back to the UTR situation, there was no UTR, there was no analytics that I could measure up to or compare to players. And so here's my advice with this. UTR is simply this. It is a measuring stick for what you are as a player compared to other players that say around the nation or around you. It's a measuring statistic or number, I should say, of where your level is at. It's nothing more, nothing less. Now, I'm not saying that you should never pay attention to UTR. I'm not saying that you should never pay attention to the analytics or the data that it is driven by. However, you should not be putting your identity in UTR. And if you're a parent listening to this, and if you have a junior, and let's say you're their coach or you have someone else that is their coach, and if all you're doing is putting pressure on them to advance their UTR and then get it to a certain number, you got to play this amount of tournaments, you got to play this certain type of tournament to improve your UTR. And if you don't improve it, you're not going to get better. You are destroying your kid's identity through that. So stop doing that. Stop putting all this pressure to raise your UTR all the time. Stop checking the app. I know how you guys are. I know you guys function. Again, I get it with social media age, with Instagram. You know, you guys are constantly having your attention taken advantage of. And I get it, right? Back in my day, I didn't have Instagram, didn't have all these apps, didn't have players tracking me. Again, that's another thing that I constantly forget is when I'm seeing these junior players, especially when I'm traveling to tournaments with the academy I'm at, LTB Academy, is a lot of these players, again, when they get on the court, they're warming up and they're talking with the partner. What are they talking about? UTR. Oh, you're playing a 7.0. Oh, you're playing a 6.0. Oh, you're playing a 3. And it gets into their head and they think, oh my gosh, I got to win this. This player is lower than me. Oh, this player is higher than me. I'm automatically going to lose. Guys, at the end of the day, matches are not decided on paper. They're not. You have high seeds, you have low seeds, obviously. You have people who have higher UTRs. You have people who are lower UTRs. But that should not be your identity or how you operate and how you view your matches. So parents, stop putting UTR pressure. Stop telling your kid that you need to get this up, you need to do this. And again, it is a good measuring stick for comparing where you are, but your identity should not be wrapped up in this technology and the number, right? Whatever you're doing with it, make sure you make it plain and simple with your kid. If you're a junior watching this, make sure that your identity is not wrapped up into it, okay? Because it can take you on a psychotic path. And I see it with juniors today. They'll go lose a match, they'll cry, all because, oh, I lost to someone lower than me. Newsflash, you're going to lose to players that you're better than. Hey, it's just the name of the game. It's just tennis, right? But don't be a victim. Don't be somebody who's always complaining, always crying because you have to play a certain player or you lost a certain player, right? You're going to be in a situation where you're playing a higher UTR and you end up beating them. But again, you shouldn't even place your identity in that, right? So understand analytics, understand that numbers at the end of the day, they're just numbers. Now, with that, you got to understand what you can control, what you can't control. To close out with this, fear. Fear should not be something that you are bound down to. It should be something that you recognize is real. And again, fear is real. And for anyone to tell you that fear is not real and that you just have to kind of ignore it, no. Fear is always going to attack you. Doubt is always going to attack you. All these familiar, I would call spirits, right, that are kind of hovering around, all the demons that you got to battle, those things are real. But what do you do with them, right? You got to attack them with a growth mindset. You got to attack them with the ability of your belief in what you bring to the table in terms of not just your talent, but the work ethic that you bring, okay? You can't just sit there and be a victim to the things that attack you because they're going to show up over and over again. It doesn't matter how well you've done in your career. It doesn't matter where you are. You got to be able to battle fear over and over again. Parents, don't put unnecessary pressure on your kid to raise their UTR, to have a certain expectation of winning in X amount of tournaments. Again, tennis at the end of the day is circumstantial. So if you don't understand the circumstances that you're entering into, right, you're going to find yourself in a place that is very toxic, very miserable, and very frustrating because you're putting all your eggs in a basket in terms of having a certain result. You can't do that. Understand that tennis is circumstantial and you got to just roll with what is happening, right? And then lastly, obviously UTR, rankings, data, not saying that it's not important, but don't put your identity in it, okay? I had the privilege of not having any of those distractions or apps or, whatever you guys look at, right? At the end of the day, a number, it's just a number. It does represent something, but it is not the end all be all of who you are as a tennis player, right? I know it was not for me in terms of rankings, tournaments, right? I knew what my identity was, right? For me personally is my faith in Jesus Christ, right? My belief in the God-given abilities that he has given me, right? I also knew that I was representing my family. I was representing people who invested in me. And obviously you guys have people who are investing in you. You have academies who are investing in you. You have your parents, you have your coaches, you have people who love you, right? So you got to remember those things, and you got to be grateful at the end of the day that you're playing this game. I want to thank you guys for listening to the Love All Life podcast. I hope this has been inspirational to you. Again, you can find this on Spotify, and I will also be uploading this on YouTube. So please share, like, and subscribe. Help support G-Man. And again, I want to thank you guys for being on this journey with me, to the juniors, young people, parents, coaches. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time on the episode of the Love All Life podcast. G-Man is out.